we have a historical expert, Katelyn Phillips. She is here to talk about the 13th, 14th, and 15th Amendments that changed the history of our country and the lives of every citizen. Let's start with the 13th Amendment. Everyone knows that it abolished slavery, but what people don't know is that it wasn't fully supported by every state and government. The amendment declared neither slavery nor involuntary servitude, except as a punishment for crime whereof the party shall have been duly convicted, shall exist within the United States or any place subject to their jurisdiction. Could you tell us more about it?
In the Senate, the amendment was overwhelmingly favored. It passed with a vote of 38-6 on April 8, 1864. But it wasn't the same case in the House of Representatives. On June 15, 1864, the amendment was initially defeated with a vote of 93 in favor, 65 opposed, and 23 present, which means not voting on the issue. This is less than a two-thirds vote, which is needed for the amendment to pass and move on to the President. The amendment finally passed in the House on January 31, 1865, with a 119 to 56 vote.
Who was the main supporter for this amendment?
President Abraham Lincoln was the main supporter for this amendment, along with most of the northern states.
How long did it take for the amendment to become ratified?
It took from April 8, 1864 to December 18, 1865, so almost 2 years for the amendment to pass and become ratified within the states.
After the 13th Amendment was ratified, the 14th Amendment came along. It was one of the Reconstruction Amendments. The amendment addresses citizenship rights and equal protection of the laws, and was proposed in response to issues related to former slaves following the American Civil War. Could you expand on the topic?
The amendment was bitterly contested, particularly by southern states, which were forced to ratify it in order to regain representation in Congress. With the exception of Tennessee, the southern states refused to pass the 14th Amendment.
How was the 14th Amendment finally ratified?
On June 8, 1866, the Senate passed the amendment with a vote of 33 to 11. And on June 13, 1866, the House of Representatives passed it with a vote of 120 to 32. On June 22, 1866, President Andrew Johnson sent a message to Congress announcing that the 14th Amendment had been sent to the states for ratification.
How did this amendment help future causes?
Other groups tried to use the 14th Amendment to further their causes. Women attempted to use it to proclaim their right to vote, and African Americans tried to use it as well.
So would you say that without the 14th Amendment, it would have taken longer to grant equal voting rights than it did?
Yes, most definitely.
The 15th Amendment granted African American men the right to vote by declaring that the right of citizens of the United States to vote shall not be denied or abridged by the United States or by any state on account of race, color, or previous condition of servitude. What did this mean for the people of America?
Voting would be changed forever in America. Now, former slaves and African Americans in general could vote. Although the amendment was ratified on February 3, 1870, the promise of the 15th Amendment would not be fully realized for almost a century. Through the use of poll taxes, literacy tests, and other means, southern states were effectively able to deprive African Americans of their right to vote. It would take the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965 before the majority of African Americans in the South were registered to vote.
As you stated before, the amendment was not favored by about half of the country. How did they pass the vote, and did it take longer than a normal amendment to pass?
Actually, the amendment took about the same time as normal to pass, and the votes were overwhelmingly in favor of the amendment. The House of Representatives passed the 15th Amendment on February 25, 1869 by a vote of 144 to 44. The Senate passed the 15th Amendment on February 26, 1869 by a vote of 39 to 13.
What did this amendment do for the future of America?
Well, this amendment not only gave African Americans their right to vote, it opened the doors for African American senators and eventually our first African American president.
All right, that's all the time we have for today. Thanks for joining us.